Hey friends! If you've been here for quite a while, you know that I used to predominantly be a book channel. I used to do book reviews, talk about my reading adventures, though nobody really cared. But reading is still a really big part of my life. I read 30 minutes a night. Well, at least I try to. I'm not really doing it that much these days because life is being life. And I feel like mine is just starting. And I found it really hard to come up with book content on a regular basis. But you know what? I'm a book lover. Books will always be a part of my life, and it just makes sense to still keep doing book content. Not too long ago, I read a book that I was calling the wrong title for at least the first month that I was reading it. It's called Haunting Adeline. But it wasn't until I was more than halfway into the book that I realized that it's actually called Haunting Adeline and not the Haunting of Adeline. I know you may not think it's that funny, but it is that funny to me because this stuff happens to me all the time. I think I have something called selective reading. I don't know if that's a coined term yet, but if it's not, that's mine. Don't steal it, because if you steal it, you're plagiarizing. I mean, I'm not dyslexic or anything. I just read things how I want to read them. I don't know if it's related to my ADHD or being neurodivergent. Let me know if that happens to you, if you have selective reading or whatever it's called, where you read something and you just read how you want to read it. Anyway, I'm not trying to get all political wrecked.
What?
Political wrecked? I told y'all, I got problems. Maybe my throat chakra is blocked. The point in this video is not to be politically correct about medical terms. It's about Adeline and what is haunting her. But my ADHD will not let me talk about what is haunting Adeline. I promise I'm getting there. Now, I didn't say this, but I've heard that this is the most controversial book of the century. This is the first book. It's a 2-part series. And I feel like for some reason, the universe doesn't want me to read the second book. I'll tell you why I think that at the end of this video, so stick around, please, because maybe you've ran into the same problem. Now, this book is so dark that I could just lie to you and say that I read it this past Halloween during spooky season, but that would be lying. And lying is immoral and rude. So I'm just going to tell you the truth and say that I read this past winter, January, February-ish of this year. I just love dark shit. I love reading dark shit. But I think this was a whole nother level of dark. What my Scorpio dominant birth chart was not prepared for was a new baseline to have my soul crushed. The things I read about in this book are so horrific and vile that I probably can't even explain it into specific words here on YouTube. I mean, I don't have a problem describing it into specific words, but YouTube has a problem with their creators describing things in specific words. So I gotta tread lightly on this one. Now, I got into this thinking that it was some sort of paranormal, dead and undead love story between a human and a ghost, because I could not, for the life of me, find a single synopsis online anywhere that stated what in the actual hell this book was about. The only thing that you can find online with a quick Google search is what's written on the back here. There's literally nothing that tells you the who, what, when, where, how, why of Haunting Adeline. Now, annoying as that is, I gotta say, I gotta give it to the publishers of this book. That is a really good marketing strategy. As much as it annoys me, kudos to them, because that invokes even more mystery to the book's potential readers. So it wasn't my fault that I just had to come to my own conclusions about the storyline of this book. Because if you look, see, there's a skull right there. There's a skull. Can you see that? You better be able to see that. And then you got the word haunting here. So what was I supposed to think? You tell me. You got any better ideas than you tell me, because I would love to hear them. My curiosity was piqued with this from Book Talk, of course. If you spend a lot of time in Book Talk, you know that there is a little corner of TikTok. There is a little book corner, if you must, of people wanting their dark literary fantasy satisfied. I'm not one of those people. What do you think you're talking to, nasty?
Nasty!
Just because I like dark literature doesn't mean that I like all dark literature book talk. And stop showing me A Court of Thorns and Roses crap. Sick of it. If you've watched my other book videos, you know that I have unwarranted hate towards A Court of Thorns and Roses because of how overhyped it is, even though I've never read it. Anyway, now finally we're gonna talk about Haunting Adeline, not the haunting of Adeline. She'll be able to talk right one day. So this story centers around, do I even need to say it? Do I really need to say it? You know it's about Adeline, but it's also about her Machiavellian stalker, Zaid, which is worse than a ghost haunting. So yes, Adeline's stalker is part of her haunting. The other portion of the haunting describes the mystery surrounding her great-grandmother's gruesome death. Just a little side note, this stalker of hers, he does something that kind of makes him above the law. I can't say what, though. I can't say what. Because A, I don't want to give too much away. And second, I don't know if YouTube will like me describing it in certain words. So we're just gonna leave it at that. So because this Zaid guy is kind of above the law in a way, Adeline can't really go to the authorities for help for her stalker situation. And because the stuff that he's doing is hard to prove, like with physical evidence. The evidence that points to him, Zaid at least. Now, I have got some beef with publishing companies marketing these kind of things as romances. Where's the romance in here? Kind of like the little tantrum I threw in my 50 Shades of Grey video. Both that book and Haunting Adeline are labeled as dark romances. The dark part I agree with, but should be calling it a romance. Don't be doing that. Goodbye. I mean, you could call it a dark fantasy because that's what they are. But don't mislead people into thinking there is something romantic about these stories. No wonder why people have screwed up relationships. But back to Haunting Adeline. This stalker situation has been going on for months. And not only is Adeline in danger, did I point in danger because she has a stalker, but because of what her stalker does, it puts her into even more danger. Again, I can't describe it into words because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. But also what puts her into even more danger is the truth that she's uncovering during her little amateur detective work of her grandmother's gruesome death. That puts her into contact with some very shady people, which also prohibits her even more not to go to the authorities for the dangers that she's in. And also during the course of these several months, when she's trying to fight her stalker to leave her alone, she kind of develops this sick trauma bond with him. Now that's the first part of what is haunting Adeline, but the other thing that is haunting Adeline are actual ghosts. I assume the ghost of her great-grandmother. A little backstory. Adeline moves into this old family mansion at the beginning of the book because she's a newly rich, successful author and can now afford her own home. Something that most of us only dream about these days. Maybe not an old family mansion, but having a house of our own. So, of course, when you got the two words old and mansion, you're gonna come up with the concoction of the haunting, I think. Because you cannot tell me that you have never been to one of those old house or mansion turned historical tour museums and haven't experienced something weird. I don't know if ghosts are real or not, but you definitely know that some weird shit goes on in there, even from just a small little teeny tiny visit. Or you at least just know that there is an off vibe. But anyway, my great-grandmother said you should always be more afraid of the living than the dead, and that adage supports Adeline's many hauntings. Now, I wish I had more of a backstory on Adeline's early life experiences to be able to fully judge why she develops a trauma bond with her stalker, because even though she harbors these intense feelings of hatred toward him, she still is somehow fascinated by his dominance and aggressive need for control that robs her of all of her personal personal power, causing the lines to get blurred between predator and protector. So yeah, this book is just one big soul-sucking cluster. Am I reading the second book because I enjoyed the first book? No, I didn't particularly enjoy the content of Haunting Adeline. It made me sad for her to read to what she was going through, but also kind of like not, because she sort of brought it on herself. I mean, most of it was out of her control. Her stalker Zaid and the other bad guys are so horrible, of course, but there were some things she did have control of. I switched back and forth from feeling sorry for her to judging her. At least to say, my feelings toward her are very ambiguous. But this freaking ass book left me on the slimiest, juiciest cliffhanger. Now I have no choice but to read the second book because I gotta know what happens. I'm gonna stop banging. It's too late for me to be banging on books. And I feel like the universe does not want me to read Hunting Adeline. That's the title of the second book, if that wasn't clear. I tried to buy Hunting Adeline off Amazon twice. Two times. And both times Amazon claimed that it was either undeliverable or lost in transit. I'm like, yeah, effing right. I just think you don't want me to read it, Amazon. I don't know if the universe thinks I'm not going to be able to take Hunting Adeline, but I can take pretty much anything. Even though I didn't enjoy Haunting Adeline, I have to know what happens in the second book because of that goddamn cliffhanger. Nonetheless, it's kind of shady that it seems that I can't get a copy of Hunting Adeline on my hands, at least from Amazon in particular. I would have said anywhere, but I bought it off Thrift Books last week, so we'll see if it actually comes in the mail. To be continued, maybe. Well, that will be just about it for this video. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because I'm going to do very, 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 very fun things. Well, they're not really that fun, but I think they're fun. I'm going to be doing fun things when I hit a couple of milestones here on this channel. Just find wherever it says subscribe on your screen, or hover your finger or mouse wherever it says subscribe, and then just go bing, and it should notify you every single Friday I upload on here. I hope.